Are you a real estate investor looking to sharpen your skills or a newbie looking to become one? You're in the right place. Welcome to Where Should I Invest? Real Estate Investing in Canada with your host, Sarah Larby.
Victoria, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. So we connected originally on social media on Instagram, and I've been following your account and all the awesome things you're doing. And I just, said I have to reach out and just find out more because you got a great story, a great, really unique property that we're going to talk about. But before we do that, maybe we'll do a quick 30,000 foot view, a little bit about like who you are and how you got started in real estate.
Yeah. So actually, my husband and I bought our first home about 12 years ago in our hometown that we grew up in. And at that time, it was cheaper to purchase a house than it was to rent a house. So we got a house, we flipped it, and we were trying to find a way to kind of leverage what we had to increase our income. So we found on weekends we were away or like a vacation time, we would rent out the house on Airbnb. So kind of organically it evolved where more and more people were reaching out. Hey, would you rent it for this month or 3-month period, 6-month period? And then the larger the number of months, it kind of clicked that this could be really lucrative. There's a need, there's a demand. So we actually turned our single family home into a 2-unit house. And what had happened was our original plan was to live in the main home and rent out like this bachelor studio apartment in the back, but people still wanted the front. So we decided to, with our 2 children, a dog, move into the back. It was 400 square feet. And it actually, during that 6-month rental time, paid for all the renovations to make that splitting of our house basically possible. So then we kept getting requests to rent both units, and it pushed us to actually purchase a second home. So we rent that out full time. It's actually a long-term rental now. But our dream was to kind of, from living in that 400 square foot unit, we thought we could live in an Airstream. It was small, and we kind of were interested in discovering what that would feel like. So during the pandemic, we bought our Airstream, renovated it, stayed in it, and realized like this is not going to work out long term for this nomadic lifestyle that we kind of had envisioned. So we rented that out on Airbnb and had a lot of success with partnering with a property kind of with the revenue split, and ended up storing it for the winter. We were trying to pull it somewhere down south to keep it going all year round, but it didn't end up working out. So it kind of pushed us to keep the ball rolling. We found a permanent spot for that Airstream and immediately missed hosting, missed having our own spot. So we purchased another Airstream, which we're in this location now, and we're kind of just going from there. We evolved into property managing for other people's places and hosting for them. So it's all just kind of grown over the past 5-6 years that way.
Amazing. So obviously it sounds like you progressively did it, but originally it was maybe just a small thought that, kind of snowballed into a big project. So from the Airstream perspective, like why an Airstream, and like where did you even find an Airstream? What kind of shape was it in? I have so many questions about that.
The Airstream, I think honestly from magazine cutouts, and I don't know, there's just this interesting vibe that comes along with it kind of being bohemian and classic, but you can kind of make the interior your own style, which is what our taste is super minimal. And we've restored our century homes, so we're kind of familiar with bringing things back to their original state with kind of a modern twist. So we love like classic mixed with kind of that restored, everything's brand new feeling. And honestly, like they are from the 70s and they're still like the body of them, if they're restored or originally kept in good shape, can just last for years and years. So instead of looking at it as, I guess like it's not like a car, it's actually an asset, not that you're building equity in it, but it's kind of an asset that holds its value over time. So a lot of parts kind of intrigued us about it. We started our search just on Kijiji. And a lot of people, it was March 2020, so people weren't quite offloading too crazy yet because we were kind of in the balance. But we actually found it at a spot a couple hours away from us that tried to put it on their property and rent it out. The shape was deceiving. We weren't experienced at the time. So until we started pulling up the subfloor and realizing, oh, it's like the wood is completely rotten. And like it was just a bit of a can of worms. So it wasn't just kind of updating the aesthetics of it. It was kind of a lot farther into it than we thought. But in doing that, we gained so much knowledge to be able to do even a deeper dive into our next one, which was in horrific, like it was really, really bad. But what we've learned is like, they're all kind of bad. They all have water damage. And unless you're going to just kind of use it as is in that vintage style, we wanted to do enough updates that we just got one that was really, 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 really bad. No windows, mold everywhere. It was crazy. So yeah, kind of continued our adventure that way.
Those are the best types of properties. Sometimes you get the best deals. I mean, I love like fire burnt houses. Like we bought the stuff that nobody wants to touch that you can negotiate a lot better. So I don't know if you're open to sharing maybe some numbers of like, I know you have a couple, but like what's an average price of what you've bought as an example from an Airstream perspective on the purchase, and like how much, did it cost you in renos to get it up to par?
My numbers might be a bit off. I know my husband Drew has that down pat, but I mean, they're more expensive than you realize. But our first one, for instance, was around $23,000. The second one, we got a really crazy deal and it was about $8,000. I found that once we shared our story to other people who were selling their Airstreams, there's just like this community that they want to see you have it. And even though there were hundreds of people that reached out to this person, basically, if you were to look at the scrap metal value, it would be $8,000. So he kind of said yes to us. And although it was a hunk of junk, really, we towed it and we were really happy with it. But we learned a lot. I think we really overdid it with what the extent was with our first one. We put in a full bathroom. My husband's handy, so he was able to custom build everything. So like the bed frame, like we got IKEA stuff and kind of could custom fit it because its shape is round. You can't really get exact square stuff. So you'd have to kind of custom do certain things, but we were able to save a lot of money that way because we did not calculate his time or pay anybody for that. We had some help from family as well, but probably overall our first one, I'm trying to think if it was 23,000, I feel like we probably put 50 into it.
Okay.
And then this one here that we got for 8, we probably put around 30 into it. This one we chose not to put a bathroom in it. So it saved about $5,000 to $7,000 because we were building it to suit the space we were in that had a bathroom. So yeah, it's all just kind of what the fit and finishes that you want. We got discontinued laminate because it was such a small space, but then we got nice custom like ash wood. And like we tried to compare our budget with like high-end things and just try to keep things on budget, but we're relatively open-ended because we understand that once you get going, like it just kind of goes. That's kind of an idea.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I think as investors, right, we look at it from the cash flow. So one cost you 40 grand and it looks like you're in a really cool, like, trendy warehouse looking space with the Airstream in here. But it is about cash flow, right? And so on average, I know you've got the two, like, what are you seeing per night? I granted summer is going to be different than the rest of the year, but let's just say as an average nightly occupancy and nightly rate roughly for somebody to say, hey, maybe I want to do an Airstream one day and, build that out. Like, what are you seeing from the rental numbers?
So from when we rented it, it was outside. We kind of have two models now. So a normal way to use it, which people can understand the concept of it being outside. It was by a river at a brewery. We were renting it for about $250 a night. And it slept 4 people, but 95% of the time it was 2. In this location, we try to get about 400 a night, but there's times where we've put it down to $200 a night. We're just trying to feel out, is it the price? We've never really dealt with a luxury property yet. So we're just trying to decide if it's the price point. Is it the market right now? Is it the location? It's like we're trying to not price ourselves out of the market. If we're too high end, we're trying to be really affordable and see if we can compete with a hotel that's nearby. But still the majority of people that rented are 2 people, but we can fit groups up to 6 in this space. So we're just trying to get the word out there and have people make sure that people understand the concept from the photos. But that's basically the snapshot of what we're able to get, which is a range right now. Yeah, it's basically 200 to 400.
Yeah. And you know what, it is because I mean, I've been doing Airbnb, cottages and different things since 2017, 2018. And I will tell you, this is a tough economy that we're in, because with the rates being, at 7-8% versus your 2%, a lot of people, who are either variable or had to renew their mortgages, now all of a sudden they're paying thousands of dollars more per month, and it just depletes their disposable income. And I'm finding the same thing even with my resort. We're higher end, and the price points, you've got to look at, like, okay, is it the current economy? Is it the market? And is it a combination of just people not knowing about it quite yet? And I think, and all of this stuff takes time. And anybody who started, and I think, in 2020, 2021, the market was amazing. Nobody could go anywhere. Like, no, people were not traveling. And so it was, now in 2023, people want to get out. They want to go explore different countries. They can fly again. So I think, there's that, plus the lack of I think, disposable income that we all had more of a couple years ago when the rates were still low, and people were not spending as much because there wasn't as much to spend on. So I think that's part of it. I mean, it is definitely a tougher year in 2023. And I think it also got saturated over the last couple of years with everybody wanting to do cottages and Airbnb and like all of that stuff. So now we're all competing with, I think a lot more inventory, and the demand itself hasn't necessarily gone up to the same extent as the supply. So it's definitely quite interesting. But, to go back to the Airstream piece, I still think you have something very unique that's Instagrammable. And I think that's what people want, is those different experiences, right? Same thing with the resort, which we have. It's all themed, and it's just very unique as well. And I think that's, if you can find a way to differentiate yourself and create something different, when, rates come back down and the economy stabilizes, I think these are going to be the properties that people still want to, book, and the occupancy rates are still going to be quite high and all that good stuff. But it's challenging. What are some of the challenges that you faced? I mean, obviously doing these projects, and, what are you currently facing that you can maybe give some advice that somebody's maybe just starting out or wanting to do something similar might face?
Yeah, I think we've kind of been hitting a wall with the economy and the slowdown of things. And it's kind of great. We have found that people book this for special occasions. You've got a proposal, we have birthdays. And so we're just trying to get a grasp on just a bit of a different target market. So we've kind of gone with that. We've started opening up the space for special events as well, for private bookings and not just Airbnbs. So we're trying to kind of evolve with what's going on as well, because this is our first property that we have overhead. Other places, it was our mortgage, we were living there. And then the next partnerships were profit share. So this is the first space that we are renting or leasing this space as a commercial lease. So our number one priority is, how do we get our rent covered? And it's been challenging that way, because the other was automatic cash flow, and you're paying down whatever debt you got into for the renovation costs, but you're kind of just automatically cash flowing and back paying, and it's just going. But this is like, okay, we have like a substantial amount of overhead, and it's just more than cash flowing. You're just the risk tolerance that we just accepted a lot more risk with this property. So it's just trying to gauge what we need to do. Do we need to pivot, like kind of strategize a bit more? And what we aren't used to is marketing, and we've just been brats and thrown something up there, and people are like, wow. But like you said, it's like it has become saturated, and this is a new concept. But like Airstreams now, you can find people renting out RVs and that type of thing. So we're trying to just be a step ahead and kind of keep our ideas fresh and just not lose steam, because it's hard after this process. It's been coming up to a year now since we purchased this one. And to have the hard work not be over, it's like takes a bit to just stop and regroup and like just kind of get your head in the game again, and it's not over. So you're still like growing it. Yeah, it's been different that way. So yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, look, we're all facing very similar challenges, I think, as well with the marketing, and how do you stand out, and how do you not just rely on the platforms, right? How could you create momentum elsewhere? But you said something interesting. I want to go back to, well, I mean, you say lots of interesting things, but one of the things I do want to ask about is, so this is a commercial space that you're renting.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you've got your Airstream inside, and you've created, like it looks like a living room space outside of the Airstream, with a kitchen and all that cool stuff. So the Airstream is essentially for the sleeping portal. And we'll add the link to the show notes so people can go take a look as well.
Awesome.
So this is essentially something that you've negotiated with the landlord to be in that space. So you're on a fixed, I'm guessing, X amount of dollars per month. And so you've got to cover the rental, market with that, plus anything else is extra in your pocket, I'm guessing.
Yeah, exactly. So we've had this space since September last year, but we didn't launch our Airstream. The space wasn't ready because we had to work on renovating it as well. So we launched in March. We wanted to do January, but there's always delays. So we've been kind of holding that rent since then, and it's just kind of been bleeding money. And, March is slow. So you're like happy if you get like all the weekends booked, and, during the week is hard anyways. But it was challenging to find someone who would allow us to do this, because people who have commercial spaces are like, do you have an automotive shop that you're operating? Or like their grasp of what you can explain your vision is going to be is like kind of shocking. So a lot of people were really uncomfortable and like weren't into it. So we've been thinking of doing this for about a year or two. We had another property lined up that a few days before just got pulled right out from us. So that was actually an hour and a half away from us in Barrie, which in hindsight, it's really kind of good that it didn't happen. A lot of the pieces it would have been complicated. We would have been far away from it. So when this came up, we kind of had to jump on it. There's always the 3 other people are interested in it. So yeah, jumped on it sooner than we were ready to, but just pulled the trailer in and we're finishing it and the space. But they could grasp the concept. They're locals. They have a business right beside this location. They own the entire building. So they're kind of rooting for us. It's very interesting. So yeah, it is a flat rate that we pay. Aside from our utilities, obviously, but they've been really great to work with us. So it's been a really important relationship to keep intact. With that, there's some limitations. We're not allowed to have pets. We're not allowed to have bookings over 6 nights. So it kind of kneecaps us for things that we would be interested in kind of doing, or saying, yeah, we'll have a 1 week rental, even like we can't have pets. So certain things, it's just been like a little bit challenging that way for those things to be out of our control. But at the end of the day, the odds of us finding this place at the time and with the right people to allow us to do it is like crazy.
Yeah. It's interesting because you hear a lot of people, renting off, a landlord from a residential standpoint. But when you get into the commercial space, the RTA doesn't apply, the landlord tenant board stuff doesn't apply. It's out the window. And, oftentimes you might be able to get away with a short term if you can prove that it was commercial use. But this is true commercial. So you're essentially signing a lease that they say, here are my rules and my regulations. And then I think probably on their end, they've got to make sure that the zoning for what's, they're offering also matches, that you're able to do these dwelling units inside. So that, as a, from a commercial standpoint, I think it is interesting. Like, it's definitely unique that you're probably the only person I can think of that's doing something like that with commercial space, but there is a lot of empty commercial space out there. And there's, like for us, for example, like we're doing a lot of commercial conversions to residential units. So we're taking these old, unused commercial spaces, and we're actually creating dwelling units, and we're not changing the zoning, but we've got, the ability in there to create dwelling units with whatever that zoning allows. But it is unique, and I think it's just like you said, explaining the concept to somebody. But it's I think it just gives you an upper hand, because you always want to go against the grain, right? And do something that not everyone else is doing. So are you thinking of expanding? Are you looking at doing more of these down the road?
We have the opportunity in this location. Even there's actually a room behind us here that we're kind of keeping an eye on if we want to, based on the results for what the space is right now. We could always convert that into a bedroom. So that could sleep another, if we put 2 beds in there, we could sleep another 4 people. Another issue being, we'll have to kind of negotiate with the landlord. Right now, they don't want us to have more than 8, I think. So once you get into bigger groups, then you can charge more, or you can charge over 6 people this amount per head. So something that we wanted to really trial, is the concept viable without that space? Because then looking at doing that space, it's going to cost us another $10,000 investing into furnishing that and finishing that. So this was like an old freezer room. So there's lots of damage, and it's weird, but it would be a really cool space. And then also coming down the pipeline here in the Kawartha Lakes, our bylaws, we've never had before. So again, we're just kind of being cautious. Do we want to go further into this, or just does this work as it is? So yeah, we're just trying to see how it goes, but having options to expand is definitely on our radar. But first and foremost, how do we use the space that we have? So we could even, if we were going to go from, initially it was actually 4, we only had people sleeping in the Airstream. The upstairs office we had as an office, and then we converted that into a bedroom just to have 6 people in here. And then next, I think we would sleep 8 with the existing space, maybe have a pull-out couch, someone sleeping out here, and then just kind of trying to feel what the demand is. If there's opportunity for more, then we can kind of build out with this. It's kind of been cool though, with taking the risk even and the leap with our first Airstream. We were able to say, hey, this is kind of the start of our portfolio. This is the style. This is what we're about. I think it really helped people understand that we have like a good taste, and we have we've executed a vision before. We've had partnerships. So same with this space. I think it's kind of adds to our portfolio as a strong piece of what we can do with spaces, and wherever that leads, we're really open to collaborating with other people, or kind of, we don't have any next steps in terms of another space. We're really just focused on getting this up to its full potential, basically.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I guess worst comes to worst, if, the landlord decides one day that you are no longer going to be the tenants, because commercial leases are very, very different than residential leases. I mean, you could take your Airstream into another commercial space.
Yeah, exactly. We can always tow it. We can sell it. We can, our plan is, if we ever do need to sell it, we can put a kitchen in it at least, and then it's a fully functional, we can tow it somewhere else and still have another business at another property, or do this concept somewhere else as well. But thankfully this zoning is residential, because it's in a building actually downtown that has apartments above. So we can kind of skirt around that a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of nice, a nice safety net that we didn't totally invest in a space that wasn't ours. Cause I mean, we've made some hell of leasehold improvements, that's for sure. So they're kind of lucked out with what we've done. I don't know if the next people will give any shits, but
no, I mean, it is a definitely a cool concept. So you mentioned partnerships. So do you bring in partners then to bring in the money and that kind of stuff, or how are you doing your partnerships?
Right now it's all been self-funded. So we're pretty again, we're interested in partnering with investors, and with kind of taking taking our brand further. But right now it's all been self-funded. We've had help with like kind of personal loans from family because we're both self-employed and it's hard. You can't really get loans like for the bank. They wouldn't understand anything like this. So we're trying to fly under the radar with our own stuff. I think partnerships with just like different businesses, and just more collaborative of like how to use the space, getting events in here or people with properties, and just kind of we're pretty much opportunists at the core. So in any way that if anyone ever wants to work with us, we're like, yeah, sure. How do we make that work? Of course, if it's
cool.
Yeah.
So like if somebody has like commercial space and they're like, I want to do something fun and, Airbnb it. And right now I'm in a position or a location where most companies don't want this specific spot. Maybe they would love to be able to rent it instead. And that could be a good like rental nightly thing instead. So no, that's cool. Okay, awesome. So the next part of the podcast is lightning round. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions that every guest gets the same ones. You're going to answer the first thought that comes to mind in like 20 seconds or less. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
All right. Here's question number 1. Was your favorite real estate investing book?
Oh my gosh. I guess Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay. All right. Probably the number 1 answer.
Yeah.
Number 2, not necessarily real estate specific, but if you listen to podcasts, do you have a favorite one?
What's it called? Deeper Pockets? Something Pockets?
Oh, Bigger Pockets?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I think that's the one. They're like a group of guys from the States that drink beer. I don't know if that's the right one.
Bigger Pockets is likely, well, it's about real estate, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
Brandon Turner used to be the host.
I think that's the one. Yeah.
Awesome. Number 3, what do you do for fun?
Oh, that's a good question. I've just been working so hard. It's like hard to even remember to have fun. But I love going on trips and vacations and going new places and just kind of traveling. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Number 4, if you lost everything tomorrow, your properties, your Airstreams, your assets, your money, how would you start again?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh my gosh, I've never thought about that. I think we're kind of hustlers. We kind of dig our heels in and just kind of come up with, just find a way. There's always a way. I know that's super vague, but
well, your knowledge and your education remains, right? So
yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's grit, determination, motivation. That's hard to find. So if you've got that, then you make anything happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Number 5, if somebody has $50,000, they want to get started, how would you recommend they spend that 50 grand?
I think to look at what they have. Like a lot of people have either additional space that they're not using or an additional property that they're not utilizing beyond what they use it for. So I think just either reinvesting it in your own property and finding a way to make passive income out of that would be how we started and what we'd recommend. There's kind of always something that you can do with what you have.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thanks for playing. So the last question, this is not necessarily part of the lightning round, but where can people know more about you, find out more, and then also, look at your property that you have right now that listed on Airbnb?
Yeah. So it's under, we kind of have a few different names for it, but we have a website, and it's junebaby.com, www.junebaby.com. It kind of shows our portfolio of properties that we manage, our own properties, and just kind of what we're about. And you can book a call with us for consultations or anything like that. And then we're on Airbnb, VRBO, for rentals. We also do private bookings. So Instagram, we're at June Baby Airstream. Our property management is Stay June Baby. So that's on Instagram as well. And then our property is in Lindsay, Ontario, and it's called the Fruit Market or the Warehouse, as if I don't know. It's called Airstream in a Warehouse because I think we renamed it and we wanted people to know exactly what it was, which clearly I don't, but it's called Airstream in a Warehouse.
But you know what, you get what you search for, right? So I think that's great. So you are in a warehouse. That's the commercial space. That's what that is.
Yes. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Victoria, thank you so much for being on the show. And we'll add all your links that you mentioned below. Congratulations on your success. And I know it's a tough time, this year, but there will be good times. We just gotta, if anyone's listening to this and they're also in a similar situation where, the short-term market and the economy is not doing so well, it will turn around. So we all have to hang in there, pivot along the way, and come up with some great creative solutions. This is a great creative solution. You're taking a warehouse space, you're renting the warehouse space, and you're creating an Airbnb or short-term rental opportunity out of it, and just something so unique. So congratulations on your success, Victoria.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to Where Should I Invest with your host, Sarah Larby. Make sure to listen in next time. We'll catch you on the next episode of Where Should I Invest?